Motion detected. Backyard camera 3. 3 figures crossing my lawn. 1 in the morning on a Tuesday. One of them carrying a bag. I am not going to tell you what's in it yet. 6 weeks of work led to this exact moment. To understand why 3 HOA board members were standing in my backyard at 2 in the morning, we have to go back 2 years. I bought my house 8 years ago. Single, mid-30s, quiet neighborhood. The HOA was fine for the first 4 years. Then the board turned over, and the letters started. Fence height, trash bins, tree trimming, each one with a fine, 2 years of escalating notices. Then the fines began stacking in ways that made no sense. Multiple violations per week, fees on fees. My property attorney flagged 3 as procedurally invalid, issued without the required prior ring. I filed a formal challenge. The board voted to uphold every fine anyway. She said, they are not trying to collect money. They are trying to build a default. I said, a default on what? She said, if unpaid HOA fines reach a threshold, they can place a lien. A lien can lead to foreclosure. That is what this is building toward. Back to the lawn. The 3 figures keep moving. One stops near the back fence, by the raised flower bed. Hold that image. We'll come back to it. The board president's name was Ray Mercer. He ran meetings the way people run things when they believe no one is recording them. His phrase, repeated in writing across multiple notices, continued non-compliance will result in all available legal remedies. He used it the way some people use a smile, friendly on the surface, something else underneath. I noticed the fines accelerated specifically during the months I was between legal representation. That's when I started a file. Every letter, every fine, every meeting minute I could access. I placed 4 cameras on my property, 2 visible, 2 not. I also set up a parabolic microphone I had from years of bird watching. High sensitivity, weather sealed, directional. Under my state's recording law, audio captured on your own property of unauthorized entrance is admissible. I didn't know yet what I'd catch. I just knew I needed to be running before something happened, not after. The first recording. Not a trespass, a conversation. 2 board members, including Ray Mercer, in the parking lot after a meeting ended. They didn't see me. The mic was in my car. The recording included my address, the phrase "make it look like it came from outside the property," and a timeline tied to the next board meeting. I said, I have audio of them discussing my address. She said, do not share it with anyone. Bring it to me in person tomorrow morning. Most people think of HOA disputes as civil matters, fines, liens, small claims. Usually that's correct. But when board members coordinate to manufacture foreclosure grounds, planting evidence, conspiring to defraud a homeowner of their property, that crosses into criminal territory. Specifically, conspiracy to commit fraud, trespassing, and depending on the substances involved, drug-related felony charges. In many states, a coordinated effort by multiple people to defraud a homeowner of their property also meets the threshold for a RICO claim, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, built for exactly this kind of organized criminal conduct. RICO matters because it reaches everyone in the conspiracy, not just the person who crosses the property line, and it lets the victim sue civilly for treble damages, 3 times the actual harm. She said, if what you suspect is true and you can document it, this stops being an HOA dispute. This becomes a federal matter. My attorney brought in a criminal defense attorney. He listened to the recording. He said, call the police. Instead, with law enforcement aware and a detective assigned, we made a decision. Document the actual attempt if it came. She said, if you can show us the action on video, the audio becomes corroborating evidence of premeditation. That changes the charges significantly. So we waited. Quick question before we go back to that night. Has your HOA ever sent you a fine with no prior warning, or a cluster of violations after months of silence? Tell me in the comments. My lot was not the first one this happened to. Now you have everything I had, standing in my kitchen, watching that feed live. The figure at the flower bed crouches, places the sealed package, moves to the far corner of the yard. All three leave the way they came. The camera caught all of it. I didn't move from that chair until the feed went dark. The footage went to the detective at 6 a.m. 3 figures, identifiable by clothing and gait from the parking lot recording. 1:15 a.m. One carrying a sealed package to the raised flower bed near the back fence. She said, "I need you to not touch anything in that corner of your yard. I am getting a warrant this morning." The recovery was done by a forensic team that afternoon. What they found, exactly where the footage showed it being placed, was enough for 3 felony charges per individual. Ray Mercer was arrested at his home at 7 the following morning. Here's the detail that turned this from 3 people acting alone into something else. The detective pulled the county development filings. My street, specifically my lot, and 2 adjacent ones, sat inside the footprint of a proposed mixed-use commercial development. The filing had been made by a real estate LLC 18 months earlier. One of the LLC's registered members, a name that also appeared in my HOA's management company records. 2 of the 3 lots needed for that footprint had already foreclosed. Mine was the 3rd. She said, "This is not about fines. It never was. This is about clearing the lot." The board dissolved. The management company terminated their contract the day charges were filed. The RICO filing named 5 individuals: Ray Mercer, 2 board members, and 2 people connected to the development LLC. All fines and liens against my property were vacated by court order. I stood in my backyard the day the forensic team's work was complete. Just standing there, flower bed. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I keep thinking about the other 2 families on this street." She said, "That is what the civil case is for. If I had just paid the fines and hoped it stopped, I would have lost my house. The whole thing was designed to be invisible. What made it visible was documentation, a camera, a microphone, a file folder I started before I knew I'd need it." If your HOA fines have ever felt like they were building towards something, tell me in the comments. The pattern is recognizable once you know what to look for. Criminal proceedings are ongoing. What I can tell you, all fines vacated, all liens released, civil suit filed naming the development LLC as co-defendant. The former board member who told me about the other foreclosures became a key witness. She'd been pressured to approve the fine escalation and had her own documentation. She said, "I did not know it would go this far. I thought it was just about moving difficult neighbors along." I said, "That is still fraud." She said, "I know that now. My attorney, at our last meeting, said something I wrote down." She said, "You documented everything before you knew you needed it. Most people start documenting after it is too late." HOA boards have real authority. Fines, liens, in some states the power to initiate foreclosure. When they use that authority to manufacture grounds to seize a homeowner's property and coordinate with outside financial interests to do it, that is not a civil matter. That is a crime. What to do? Document every notice. Request board minutes. You have a legal right to them in most states. If fines accelerate without a clear procedural basis, get an HOA attorney. And if you suspect trespassing, set up cameras before anything happens, not after. The recording only worked because it was already running. Subscribe. Real cases, real law, every week. The flower bed is still there. I replanted it.